It's been a while since we've done a question and answer video, and the questions are starting to pile up on us a little bit.
We love getting the questions, and we picked out a few that we're going to answer in this video.
First up is, do we unhook our truck from the fifth wheel for overnight stays or short stays?
And the answer to that depends primarily on fuel. If there was an easily accessible fuel station and we were able to fuel up, then probably not going to unhook.
Right, yeah, if we can get into a fuel station, like a truck stop or something like that, or just a large enough area for us to get in, we will. But we've been to some real little stations, and as we drove in to camp, we would look at them and say, no, I don't think we're going in there with the rig, so we'll go ahead and make camp and then just unhook and then go get our fuel. And typically we'll try to do that the night before leaving, so we'll just be ready to go the next morning.
We kind of prefer doing that anyway, because that way we can check the fuel prices in the area, and maybe there's a fuel station that wouldn't be easily accessible with the RV, but it would be without it, and it makes it worthwhile to pay less for the fuel and just have to go through that process of unhooking and hooking back up, which really isn't that big of a deal with the system that we have.
Another factor that comes into this is, like, if there's other things that we want to do in that area and we got in with enough time to do that, then we'll go ahead and unhook for the fuel and to go run some errands or do some things. So it's a lot easier without pulling the fifth wheel all around. And the other thing is related to this is that we don't like putting our hydraulic slides out when we're hooked up. I don't think it's a real good thing to put them out when it's not level and to have the refrigerator going and all that kind of stuff. We'd rather be perfectly level.
Many people and seen many people that do it and apparently don't have any problems, but for us it just seems like it's probably a better idea not to have to put these hydraulic slides out when you're hooked up, because like Bernie said, you're not level, and not knowing how that's going to affect the system, we just stick with keeping them in. Since we don't really need to get them out anyway, we can get to our refrigerator, our bathroom, and anything that we need. So the next question is, how do we handle our meals and eating when we're traveling between destinations?
Yeah, it's not quite convenient to take our fifth wheel through a drive-through, so we normally won't do anything like that.
Yeah, I tend to try to pre-plan the meals as much as I can and get them packed in the cooler bag, or at least in the refrigerator, since we can access the refrigerator with the slides in, and get those planned out in advance.
Yeah, and if we happen to unhook for some reason, we might kind of venture in and get something to eat in a small town or something like that. But for the most part, we just are going to stay planned with things and eat at rest areas or something, just eat a packed lunch. Another question we've received a few times is, as full-timers, have we ever had to put our RV or fifth wheel into a shop?
This is a really good question, and fortunately for us, the answer is no. But we have thought about what that would look like if we did have to do that, and it's something that hopefully we will not have to do.
Yeah, it's definitely on our minds as we're traveling. We wonder about that from time to time, especially when we see others going through it. We had a little bit of a taste of it with a breakdown that we had one time, and we basically, fortunately, it was just portion. We were able to stay in our RV, our home, and the truck went into the shop. But that was only a day's time, essentially, with the truck actually in the shop. So we made it out of that quite well. But yeah, when you're full-timing, you have everything you own in your RV, and it's very inconvenient to think about having to put all of that into a shop somewhere and then try to make do somehow without it.
A question that we get frequently is, why did we get a long bed truck? Well, primarily the reason was to have more storage room. When we're traveling, we have a lot of things that have to go somewhere, and that's an easy, convenient place to put them.
Yeah, right behind the cab of the truck and in front of the cap of the fifth wheel, we've got a good bit of space there. We've put chairs and our pop-up and all kinds of different things like that. And we also, if we're just unhooking real quick, we'll throw our hoses and things right there if we know we're just getting ready to use them again in a few hours. So we like having that extra space. The wheelbase was another factor because it helps with handling, and it's also a little bit longer between bumps. If you go over a bump with the front tire, it's a little bit longer before you get to the back tire. That can make a difference on bumpy roads. But another thing I guess would have to do with just hauling in general. Like if we're somewhere for a while and we want to be able to use the pickup bed, maybe for full sheets or sticks of lumber and things like that, that it'll fit in the bed very well without having to have things hanging out and stuff. So we kind of like that. We were thinking about the utility of it even when we don't actually have the fifth wheel. So.
Yeah, and another thing is we planned on having the truck for quite some time, and possibly in the future having some kind of a truck camper for shorter excursions and things like that, and having the long bed would allow us to have a little bit larger camper.
Yeah. The final question for this video has to do with, is there anything after all these years of full-time RVing that we still wish that we had? We have talked about things in a previous video that we wish we would have got initially, but I don't know, that's kind of a fluid thing, I guess, of things that we wish we had.
Yeah, but one thing that does come to mind for me is I wish we had gotten a truck toolbox that would be permanently in the back of the truck, in the bed, for things that we have that are kind of in the tub in the back seat of the truck. And when we have passengers with us, we have to take that out and put it back in, and it's a little bit inconvenient. So I think if we'd have had a locking truck box installed, that would have been something that we would definitely have used.
Yeah, and I agree. There's just been, I think what's kind of kept us from it maybe is the fact that the box is going to take up that space that I actually wanted for those kind of just toss them in outdoor type things for camp and stuff like that, and then maybe the hoses and stuff. But it would be probably a lot more convenient to do that. Yeah, this is kind of a fluid thing. Like I said, you know, once we get something that we wish we had, then there's probably going to be something else that we wish we had, and we try not to do that. Obviously, we try to live as simply as we can in our circumstances, but we have put together a wish list, and we'll put a link in the description that kind of gives you an idea of the ongoing things that we're looking at if you're ever curious. But yeah, I think the truck box would be a pretty good thing, but we had considered like a roll top. People had talked about, why don't you just get a roll top for the truck? And we would be rolling and unrolling that all the time, and so it doesn't work for us, and I see how it does for other people, and that's great, but it's definitely not anything that would be convenient for us. But truck box is a good idea.
A small truck box, I think, would be good.
Well, that's a wrap for this question and answer video. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask us, feel free to put them in the comments section of this video, or to send us an email.
And please remember to share, subscribe, and click on that little notification bell.
Thanks for watching. Okay, so we have a couple questions for you. As an RVer, what's the favorite destination that you've traveled to? And if you're not an RVer, where would you like to go?
And the second question is, what is your favorite video that we have done? Please let us know in the comments.